You might be thinking, Bible memorization, isn't that something that the navigators used to do, or old guys used to come to my church and tell me to learn Bible verses with palm cards? Well, I am an old guy telling you to memorize the Bible using palm cards. But my reason for doing it is not simply because there's something magic about memorizing verses, but because I think that it's an essential missional habit. It's actually about broadening your perspective on Scripture. For many people, they find themselves located in certain parts of the Bible, the parts that actually kind of really respond to their particular needs or interests. Many years ago during the Civil Rights Movement, when a bomb exploded at a church and killed a number of little black girls at Sunday school, a heinous crime, one of the darkest moments in the civil rights struggle, a researcher called all the churches in that town, Birmingham, Alabama, and asked every pastor, what passage of Scripture were you preaching on that Sunday? Every black pastor was preaching from the minor prophets, from the Gospels, from passages of Scripture which were about a yearning for justice and a new world. But every white preacher was preaching from the epistles and from the Psalms, often material which is much more cerebral and really much more devotional in its nature. It's simply an example of how we can find ourselves going to the passages that confirm the world in which we live. YouVersion, the Bible app, recently published its #1 most searched for verses of the year, going back a number of years. And can you imagine what those verses were? Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans that I have for you to prosper and to grow. Joshua chapter 1, be not afraid. Romans 8:28. The passage that talks about how God works all things together for good for those who love and serve him. You can see how all of those verses are comforting verses. They're verses that kind of confirm us and the fact that our God has a plan for us. And that's great. Those are really important passages to learn and to draw hope from. But you do know, of course, don't you, also that the Bible is full of passages calling us to be committed to God's heart for justice, calling us to be concerned for the poor, for the lost, for the least, calling us to embrace God's vision for reconciliation, for peacemaking, for radical lifestyle of love and service in this broken world. The reason why Graham Hill and I wrote this book is to encourage you to not just memorize verses that confirm a devotional sense, a sense of hope and personal well-being, but also to learn those radical verses that call us out into the world, into a world that so desperately needs to hear the message of Jesus and the hope that we have in him.